To kill the king upon his throne, I'm ready for their stones. I'll dance with my hands above my head. Like Jesus said, I'm gonna dance with my hands above my head. Dance together, forgive him before he's dead because
Wednesday Addams, the character of the first episode of the series, is a strange young girl who, despite her young age, shows few emotions and has an odd fascination with death. She is also well known for dressing strangely in black and white gothic clothing, which everyone finds odd. In the opening scene, Wednesday enters her high school with a nasty expression on her face. She pushes her brother Pugsley out of her locker while he is tied and has an apple in his mouth. From this, we can conclude that Wednesday is not a regular little girl. Wednesday enters the swimming room carrying 2 bags full of piranhas since she has the power to see someone's past and future simply by touching them. She casually releases the bloodthirsty piranhas into the pool after learning that a group of bullies from the swim team are responsible for this as the bullies flee in. Terror in the following scene, Wednesday's parents Morticia and Gomez are introduced. They have had enough of their daughter's antics and have decided to send her to the prestigious Nevermore Academy, where all of the students have supernatural abilities and are taught how to control them. The fact that Morticia and Gomez graduated from the same academy suggests that they, too, possess superpowers. A hiker near Nevermore Academy sets out on his own through the woods, but is fatally attacked by an unidentified creature. Unexpectedly, we discovered that this heinous murder isn't the first of its kind. In fact, there have been a number of similar incidents in recent years. After only a few minutes later, the local sheriff discovers the mutilated body and starts surveying the area. When Wednesday gets to the academy, Larissa Weems, the principal, greets her and introduces her to her roommate Enid, a werewolf who is completely the opposite of Wednesday in every way. Wednesday is obsessed with all things black and goth, whereas Enid is a laid-back girl with colorful decorations on her side of the room. Later, Ian gives Wednesday a tour of the academy while pointing out the 4 main school groups' fangs. Stoners furs. Both Scales vampires have fangs. Werewolves, or fur sirens of manipulation, are stoners or gorgons with snakes on their heads and scales. Enid also introduces her to Bianca Barkley, the popular girl in school, who is a stunning siren, and to her ex-boyfriend Xavier Thorpe, a death artist who can make his drawings come to life. Meanwhile, as the Addams family drives Gomez away and releases Thing, a severed living hand Thing is in charge of watching over their daughter Wednesday. Wednesday enrolls in fencing the following day and is matched up against the formidable Bianca. After some back and forth, matching each other's pace, but in the end Bianca wins when she cuts a tiny gash on Wednesday's cheek. Later, as Wednesday leaves the hospital after being exiled, she is almost killed by a stone gargoyle that is falling, but Xavier the death artist saves her by pushing her out of the way. Soon after, Wednesday returns to her room, but she has a sneaking suspicion that someone is watching her. She looks around the room and eventually finds some handwritten notes. When Wednesday realizes that it is her parents' fault, she threatens to lock him in a drawer if he doesn't promise to be faithful. As a result, she is compelled to attend therapy sessions. Larissa, her principal, drives her to her therapy appointment in Jericho, a small town outside of Nevermore. There, she meets with her therapist, but they do not discuss anything. Wednesday, however, has other plans. She uses an excuse to use the restroom before escaping through the window. When she runs into a man outside, she has a vision in which she is rescuing the man. Wednesday, after being horrified to witness the man's death, the witness enters a nearby coffee shop where she meets Tyler, the sheriff's son, and a barista. Because Wednesday can read Italian, she quickly fixes Tyler's espresso machine, which is having some mechanical problems and needs a ride to the nearest bus. The instructions on Tyler's espresso machine are strangely in Italian. Wednesday tries to ignore the bullies, but when she has had enough, she fights back and easily smacks them down. Principal Before Tyler can respond, a trio of bullies dressed as pilgrims stormed the store and taught her. After a while, Larissa and the sheriff arrive at the store. When Larissa sees the carnage, she snaps at Wednesday and drives her away. On the way to the academy, they pass a terrible car accident. The victim is the same man Wednesday saw earlier in her vision. Later that night, in the dorm balcony, Wednesday plays a haunting song on her cello. It's a full moon night, and you can hear several werewolves howling in the distance. Enid, a werewolf who is also a human, explains that she cannot transform, so she will not join them. Contrary to his fears, Tyler agrees when Thing enters his room and asks him to call Wednesday. Start a video chat. Wednesday claims that meeting Tyler at the harvest fair the following day will be fun, but in reality, she just wants to leave the academy. At the fair, however, we notice Larissa keeping a close eye on Wednesday. When Wednesday runs into one of her classmates, Rowan, he flees into the woods as the goth team finally catches up to Tyler. Before she can say anything, Roland uses his telekinesis to secure her eye up on Tree. He then reveals that 25 years ago, his mother, a powerful seer, predicted Wednesday destroying the Nevermore Academy. As a result, Rowan believes he must kill her before anything bad happens. He then starts to kill her. Roland sees that Wednesday has been brutally mauled to death by someone since she touched him. Terrified, she changes her mind and pursues him to tell him the news. They try to locate Rowan's body but are unsuccessful. The sheriff interrupts their conversation and we see Rowan, who is still alive, even though he does not believe Wednesday's claim that a monster attacked Rowan and thinks it was a Nevermore student. Rowan has been expelled for reasons that Principal Larissa is unable to disclose, so Wednesday turns to Plan B and asks that they keep an eye on him. The scene then shifts to Rowan, who has arrived at the train station, followed closely, and after taking in his surroundings, he sneaks in. Wednesday enters her room to find her roommate Enid preoccupied with the poke-up competition, an annual boat riding game. Larissa, the principal's name, is changed after the elderly man's disguise, which reveals that she is a shapeshifter and that she is covering up Ron's murder for some reason with no other options. The principal loses track of him and misses the transformation. Wednesday searches the woods for proof of Rowan's murder. Along with Tyler, who is following his father, she eventually locates Ron's glasses. As she picks them up, she has a vision in which she sees the purple book that inspired Rowling to create the drawing. When Wednesday immediately confronts her teacher about the book, she learns that it belonged to a well-known former pupil. As the Nightshades, however, the society has long since disbanded. Wednesday sneaks into Roland's room after school to look for the book. She finds a mask beneath his bed, but Xavier shows up before she can leave. It turns out he is Ron's roommate. Wednesday quickly hides under the bed just as Bianca arrives to see her ex. She overhears their conversation and learns that Bianca intends to humiliate Enid in the upcoming boat riding competition. Since there are no rules and everything is fair game, Wednesday and Enid get ready for the competition the following day, which Bianca is taking. The first player to cross the finish line after the competition without being knocked out in the lake wins. The game involves 4 teams rolling their boats to a destination and back. Wednesday, on the other hand, experiences a different vision during the competition. This time she sees a blonde-haired version of herself who tells her that she is the key. Enid, on the other hand, has a different vision during the competition. This time she sees a mermaid who dives into the lake and destroys one of the boats, effectively knocking out the team. Fortunately, Wednesday and Enid are prepared, and with Thing's assistance they manage to capture the mermaid. After regaining consciousness, Wednesday learns that the challenge. This time, a blonde-haired version of herself appears to her and tells her that she is the key. When Wednesday regains consciousness, she learns that Bianca's team has overtaken the competition's lead. A non-siren team has won the prestigious competition for the first time in 4 decades. She and Enid, unable to give up, decide to play dirty and use Bianca's dirty tricks against her. They eventually succeed, but Wednesday, overwhelmed by the attention, seeks refuge with Edgar Allan Poe, a former student of the Nevermore Academy. She later discovers that this is a symbol hidden beneath the stone bow. Wednesday quickly interprets a series of puzzles scratched in the book and finds a clue that is snapping twice. When she snaps twice, a secret corridor suddenly opens, revealing a hidden chamber. He had given her the picture of him before he was killed by a tiger. Although the group had previously been disbanded, Principal Larissa secretly reinstated it. Wednesday locates Rollins' book from which he tore the picture and stuffs it into her backpack, but she is stopped in her tracks. When the black sack is removed, she is surrounded by students who are members of the Nightshades Club. Xavier extends an invitation to Wednesday to join her group, but she declines and walks away. Away in the scene after, Principal Larissa announces the annual Outreach Day, a time when the Nevermore students will work alongside regular people, also known as normies, at their places of employment. When they get to town, Wednesday alerts Xavier that his roommate might have been murdered. When Wednesday shows him a drawing made by Rowan's mother, Xavier closely examines it and learns that the man in the drawing is Joseph Crackstone, the founder of Jericho, proving that Rowan is not dead despite appearances. Later, Wednesday makes the decision to work as a volunteer at Pilgrim World, the repository for Jericho's past. She runs into Eugene, a young boy she had made friends with in the beekeeping club, and they immediately start taking in their surroundings. After giving the students a tour, Miss Arlene, the Pilgrim World's caretaker, approaches the group and discusses some of Joseph Crackstone's most prized possessions. They contain original farm tools, tableware, and even the family chamber pot, which Wednesday learns when she probes the artifacts further. She wants to work there but is unable to because of renovations, so they will all be employed at the old fudge factory. Distributing cakes and fudge to visitors later, soon after finding the book the girl was carrying when she was seen in her vision, Wednesday sneaks into the Crackstone family chamber with Eugene's assistance and finds a painting of the old meeting house that shows the girl from her vision. Wednesday takes note of the pages are empty. She believes it to be a forgery. When Wednesday asks about the original book, Arlene the caretaker finds her and reluctantly admits that it was stolen last month. Tyler and Wednesday later catch up at the coffee shop, and Tyler reveals that what's left of the original meeting house is out in the woods. However, when Wednesday asks about Joseph Crackstone, Tyler reveals that it's basically a ruin and meth heads use it as a launching pad. Wednesday has a vision, and all of a sudden she travels 400 years in the past. This time, we see the blonde girl she met in her previous vision. Villagers are encircling the girl and calling her the devil's spawn shortly after Joseph Crackstone emerges from the crowd and addresses her as Goody Addams. He accuses she is the devil's spawn. When they find Joseph Crackstone's home, they come across a homeless man, but Thing chokes him and Scar. Their peaceful nature frustrated Goody attempts to rescue her mother but is ultimately unsuccessful and escapes through a trapdoor. Wednesday is in the barn with them and is also watching everything happen. Joseph then lights the barn on fire. When Wednesday awakens from her extended dream and informs everyone of it, they are startled to see the same monsters that killed Roland lurking behind them. Goody then approaches her and declares that Joseph will not stop his crusade until he has killed them all. Wednesday wants to pursue it in the rain but can't keep up, so she follows the footprints, which strangely start to resemble human footprints. This reveals. The next day, everyone gathers in the town square for the reveal of a new statue glorifying Joseph Crackstone as the mayor and Larissa announce the statue's reveal. She then runs into Xavier and tells him what she saw. He wants to examine the tracks, but the rain has washed them away. With the Jericho marching band, Wednesday plays an instrumental rendition of Fleetwood Mac's Don't Stop, but tragedy strikes and sets the statue on fire as per Wednesday's orders. While others run away in terror, Wednesday plays the cello quickly, her eyes glowing with vengeance. Later, the principal rips into Wednesday, believing she is to blame for the incident, but the teenager denies any wrongdoing. Instead confronts Larissa for refusing to acknowledge the bloody racist truths upon which Jericho was built. That night the monster attacks the homeless man from earlier and his camera begins recording the incident. The sheriff and his team arrive at the forest ruins and discover the homeless man dead. They discover footage on his camera that may reveal the identity of the perpetrator. After developing the photos, the sheriff examines the killer's face, which resembles a monster from a nightmare. On the other hand, Wednesday and Thing are stopping by the Jericho coroner's office. Wednesday hopes to examine the homeless man's body further for potentially life-changing clues. She takes careful notes as she examines the corpse when the sheriff and the coroner appear unexpectedly in the workplace. Wednesday runs away. The action switches to the sheriff and the coroner discussing the case, and the coroner showing him the severed foot of the homeless man, which is missing 2 toes. After the sheriff departs, the coroner notices one of the mortuary shelf doors is cracked and finds Wednesday inside, but the goth teen is an expert at impersonating a corpse, so he has no reason to suspect anything. Our protagonist is told by Xavier, but she would prefer to have needles stuck in her eyes. Later, she explores Xavier's mysterious art studio and finds a number of sketches that resemble the monster. She takes a few pictures and only eats fleas. To be welcomed outside by the artist, who thankfully isn't suspicious and instead wonders if she might invite him to the Raven dance. Wednesday asks Xavier to go with her to the dance in order to hide the fact that she broke into his studio. He agrees, and Wednesday then goes to the sheriff with Xavier's drawings. The sheriff reluctantly agrees to work with her if she brings strong evidence, but she has reason to suspect Xavier since he is capable of bringing in more evidence than the homeless man. The sheriff displays one sketch next to the photo he found on the homeless man's camera roll. It's a tie. Artwork to life. Meanwhile, Enid meets Lucas at a coffee shop. Lucas is the mayor's son and a tyrant. He invites Ann to the Raven, which she gladly accepts. Wednesday meets Tyler, who shows romantic interest in her. He wishes to accompany her to the dance. Wednesday, on the other hand, claims she must prioritize hurting Tyler's feelings. Wednesday then joins Eugene at the beekeeping club. Eugene appears to recognize the cave in the drawing when she shows him the sketches. He then takes her to a nearby cave. Claiming to have discovered it while out researching bees, they discover a claw lodged in the cave. Wednesday then returns to Xavier's art studio in search of evidence containing DNA that matches the claw. She discovers a bloody rag and stuffs it into her bag. Xavier suddenly catches her red-handed. He realizes she had a reason for inviting him to the dance. Wednesday wonders if he is the monster. Xavier explains that this creature had been haunting his dreams for a while, so he drew a sketch of this. Unfortunately, the beast awoke and scratched Xavier's neck with its claws. Xavier angrily kicks Wednesday out after realizing she had duped him. Later, our goth girl places the claw and bloody rag on the sheriff's desk. She then instructs him to conduct tests on them. Meanwhile, Thing secretly types a note on Wednesday's typewriter and delivers it to Tyler at the coffee shop. It's Raven dance party time while other students dress up for the event. Wednesday plans to do cave research with Eugene. Tyler unexpectedly knocks on her door with a bouquet. Thing, it turns out, wrote a heartfelt apology for Tyler, luring him to the dance on Wednesday. He also obtained a stunning black gown. Wednesday is initially irritated with Thing for acting without her knowledge. All is forgiven, however, when she sees this stunning gown. Tyler is smitten when he sees our heroine dressed in that gown. Unfortunately, Eugene is taken aback by Wednesday's sudden change of plans. She assures him that the investigation will resume the next day. She also advises him not to venture into the woods alone. However, he defies her order and sets out on his own quest. On the dance floor, everyone is taken aback by Wednesday's stunning gown. Xavier can't keep his feelings for hurting himself, so he approaches her. He finally tells her about his ongoing feud with the sheriff's son. Wednesday then informs Tyler of her conversation with Xavier. Tyler used to hang out with the bullies, we learn. Last year's outreach day, they destroyed Xavier's wall painting and assaulted him. Tyler explains that he is no longer that person. Wednesday doesn't hold it against him, claiming she would have gone further. Meanwhile, we see Lucas texting his friends who intend to exact vengeance on the outcasts for the burning of the Joseph Crackstone statue. Wednesday then surprises everyone by performing her exceptional goth dance steps on the floor. Eugene has returned to the cave site in the woods. He watches as someone sets it on fire. Back at the dance, Lucas and the bullies turn on the sprinklers, squirting red liquid everywhere. The dance floor is now completely covered in red paint. Everyone screams and tries to run, but they just keep falling down. Wednesday is struck by a vision of a terrified Eugene and his death. She makes a beeline for the woods to find him. Meanwhile, after hearing the monster snarls, Eugene attempts to flee. Wednesday cries out for him, but he does not respond. Unfortunately, Eugene is attacked by the creature before she can reach him. Eugene is covered in blood from head to toe when she finds him. In the scene that follows, we go back 32 years to a stormy night when Larissa discovers a dead body in the Nevermore courtyard. Young Gomez stands on scaffolding with a sword in his hand, covered in blood. We see the cops arresting Gomez while young Morticia confesses that she's never been more in love with him than when he's handcuffed. Miss Thornhill, the class teacher, also arrives and asks if he is still alive. The arrival of her werewolf family is Enid Bimmel. Enids. In the meantime, Morticia and Gomez confront their daughter about her time in Nevermore. Gabrielle, while the mother predictably criticizes her daughter for not using her lycanthrope abilities. Later, Bianca's mother also shows up at the gathering. Morticia looks through Larissa's yearbook and remembers all the good times. She remembers Larissa and Morticia performing for the talent show, and Larissa's impersonation of Judy Garland was excellent. The Addams family agrees to participate in psychotherapy after Larissa notifies them that the therapist wants them to attend a group session on Wednesday. In the meantime, Sheriff Galpin is on the phone at the coffee shop asking about the results of the monster's clawed DNA tests. A call about Dr. Anwar, the medical examiner who committed suicide, arrives as the Addams family's sleek black car approaches the sheriff. Suicide. The Addams family then participates for a group chat with Dr. Valerie Kinbot. Pugsley confesses to missing his sister, just like Gomez and Morticia, but Wednesday is in for a shock when she takes out her father's police file and asks who Garrett Gates is and why Gomez killed him. After learning that the charges against Gomez were dropped because the case was old, Morticia chastises her daughter for looking up this information. When Bianca meets Gabrielle at the coffee shop, she reveals the real reason for her visit. Gabrielle is the head of the Morning Song cult, in which she manipulates people for her own financial gain. Morticia storms out and runs, then Wednesday tells her mother that she intends to look into whether the latter supports her. They both hope that Bianca, who changed her name when she arrived at Nevermore, will return because if she doesn't, Gabrielle will have to admit that Bianca cheated her way into the academy. However, her siren song is fading because she married Gideon, a man Bianca hates. In the scene after Wednesday visits Eugene in the hospital, the poor boy is in the intensive care unit and our goth girl accuses herself of being the monster that attacked Eugene. Eugene's mothers arrive and express gratitude to Wednesday for her friendship because Eugene has never had one elsewhere. In order to assess the situation, the sheriff goes to the mortuary. Dr. Anwar expressed regret for making up false documents in a murder case and a note he left behind before committing suicide. From 3 decades ago, but sadly, someone smeared black gum on the camera, rendering it impossible for the police to determine what happened to Dr. Anwar. The sheriff thinks the late coroner regretted faking the Gomez death. Addams slashes Garrett Gates' case. He needs to jail Gomez now that he has the proof. Wednesday then stands by as Garrett's grave is decorated with a red rose by Morticia. While everyone is enjoying the festivities in the school courtyard, Sheriff Galpin abruptly arrests Gomez. The Addams family is shocked when Gomez is handcuffed and taken away later on Wednesday. Gomez visits her father in jail because she is determined to find out the truth, and he reveals that Garrett became obsessed with Morticia and was even stalking her. After Morticia unsuccessfully called the police, Gomez finally subdued an angry scares. After hearing his story, Wednesday is no longer convinced that her father is guilty. In the meantime, Enid's mother gives her brochures for a summer camp for negative case conversion. The camp's purpose is to forcefully transform Enid into a werewolf since she has not yet done so. As expected, Enid objects when she is given the opportunity. Wednesday comes to Morticia, and we see her standing where the Nightshade's symbolic location is. The events of that fateful night are finally revealed by Morticia. Morticia was aware of this. While Gomez was attempting to defend himself, Carriage, who was foaming at the mouth, stabbed him because she had no other choice. Morticia was told to go into her room to hide as Gomez grabbed the sword. Larissa found his body after it fell onto the courtyard below, and it turned out that Gomez was responsible for Morticia. Wednesday hears that Garrett was foaming at the mouth and wonders if he was sick. Wednesday digs up Garrett's grave for evidence, but Morticia follows in her daughter's footsteps and they are stopped by the police and put in the same cell as Gomez. Fortunately, Wednesday was able to retrieve something from the grave and show it to her parents. It was a blue-tinged finger that was the color of Nightshade, and they realized that when Morticia stabbed Garrett, he was already dead. He was poisoned. Wednesday suddenly has a vision. Garrett's father orders Garrett to poison everyone and nevermore. With Nightshade in the vision, a vial of poison is seen passing between the two. According to Wednesday, the vial broke in Garrett's pocket, poisoning him. Following their release, our mother-daughter team makes their case to Mayor Walker. Morticia accuses him of attempting to save his own skin. Walker did nothing when she told him about Garrett stalking her while he was sheriff. He attempted to conceal the facts of the case. Wednesday then displays Garrett's Nightshade dead finger to him. Morticia orders Walker to release her husband or she will expose him for the liar he is. Fortunately, he agrees. As a result, all charges against Gomez are dropped for the while Enid stands up to her mother and tells her to accept her for who she is, promising that when the time is right, she will transform into a werewolf. Sheriff Galpin even apologizes to Gomez for the second time and shakes his hand. Wednesday farewells mark the conclusion of Parent-Teacher Weekend. Wednesday later confronts our principal following a review of Larissa's yearbook. Larissa transformed into Judy Garland for Nevermore's talent show, which suggests that Wednesday has learned the truth about their guiding principle. She is a shapeshifter and pretended to be Raw the day after his murder to persuade everyone that there was nothing wrong. Larissa asserts that she made every effort to keep the school out of the public eye. Wednesday questions regarding Eugene's defense against the shapeshifting principle. When Larissa and Wednesday hear shouting and commotion outside the school, they are alarmed to see the message "Fire will rain" written in fire. Then Wednesday conducts a ritual in order to connect with her ancestor Goody Addams in the hopes that her ancestor will help her develop her psychic abilities. While the two are conversing, a mysterious figure slips a note card beneath their door, breaking Wednesday's focus. If Wednesday wants answers, she must visit Joseph Crackstone's crypt at midnight. Enid goes with Wednesday to the crypt, which ends up being a surprised birthday celebration for our goth heroine. She notices that the writing on the old fireplace is identical to the writings burned on. She sees Goody warning her about upcoming visitors and Crackstones on the school's lawn as they sing "Our Happy Birthday," but Goody is unable to assist her with her psychic abilities. In other news, Principal Larissa pays a visit to the mayor and asks for his assistance in locating the juveniles who left the burning message at her school. The mayor is happy to comply and also informs her that they are working to find the perpetrator of the recent attacks back at the academy. Wednesday in the right direction, the latter must investigate the rundown mansion that stands before them as it contains the answers she is looking for. Wednesday is investigating the fire while Xavier stands by her. Message from Will Rain. Wednesday's vision in the crypt is being investigated by the school on Xavier, but she won't say anything because she still views him as a suspect. Later, Wednesday visits Eugene, who is still unconscious. Flowers are carried into the room by Dr. Valerie Kinbot. The mayor's investigation continues as he receives the death certificate for Garrett's sister, who allegedly drowned while traveling abroad. He is suspicious of her death and wants to know if it has anything to do with the recent attacks. Eugene's mothers asked that the doctor check on him when they returned home for a few days. Wednesday tries to approach her, but she isn't looking for a free session, so she leaves the room. As of Wednesday, a visit from Tyler, who wants to take her on a date for her birthday but gets the usual cold shoulder from her. When Wednesday visits Xavier's art studio, she shows the artist a drawing of the irrigated mansion she created from her vision. Wednesday tells the sheriff about what she found in Crackstone's crypt, but he essentially tells her to stop looking into the case. The gated mansion was once owned by the Gates family, which Xavier reveals by pulling out the drawing he made of the same location. The following morning, Wednesday arrives at the mansion and observes the mayor departing after hearing his voicemail to the sheriff. He requests a meeting with the sheriff at the cafe, thinking he has discovered who is responsible for the attacks, and piles into the back of his car. As he drives there, he is unaware that Wednesday and Thing are standing behind him. When the sheriff and the mayor arrive in town, the mayor is touched by a blue Cadillac as he crosses the street to meet them. After the incident, Wednesday gives the sheriff a statement in which she claims she entered Walker's car to find out more about what he had found. When Wednesday returns to Nevermore at the Gates mansion, the principal reprimands her by removing her access to the outside world, including going into town. The following morning, Wednesday calls Tyler to inform him that she has. Xavier knocks on Wednesday and Enid's windows and finds Thing typing on the typewriter. Thing tells him where the girls are going, so our group enters the Gates mansion much to Enid and Ty's dismay. However, we all know that this is just an excuse for our heroine to leave the academy and continue our investigation. She then tricks Enid into sneaking out of school to relive her birthday party. Tyler meets them outside. Tyler is dissatisfied because he had anticipated a private date. They proceed despite Enid's disappointment because she had anticipated a girls' night out. Wednesday, however, inside the mansion, Wednesday discovers the blue Cadillac. That struck the mayor at the mansion. Then inside she discovers a hidden altar for Joseph Crackstone with the candles. Still warm, everyone divides up to search the rumored haunted mansion. Hina then summons Wednesday and the two investigate one bedroom that appears to be perfectly organized and tidy. The bed is made and there are fresh flowers on the table. Wednesday discovers a music box bearing the initials LG Laurel Gates. That's the name of the file Walker was looking through earlier before they can continue their investigation. Enid and Wednesday hear Tyler yelling for help, warning them about the monster. The monster pursues the girls through the house and they end up in the basement. They discover the monster's victims' trophies in the basement. These trophies are actual body parts from the murderer's victims. They don't have much time, so they leave the house and return to find Tyler. They discover him alive, but with extensive claw marks on his chest. Xavier arrives at the same time and assists them with Tyler. They then return Tyler to his home. The sheriff enters and orders the Nevermore children to leave. Wednesday then returns the sheriff to the Gates home, but everything has been cleared out. The trophies and the monster are nowhere to be found. The sheriff believes she is lying and is enraged that she has put his son's life in danger. Wednesday is not allowed to see his son again. She returns to her room and examines the music box she found in the mansion. Suddenly a slew of pictures splash from the base up. The falling scene depicts Mayor Walker's funeral. Wednesday and her family are all there. Someone with a gloved hand can be seen unplugging Walker's ventilator in another area of the hospital while he is unconscious. Wednesday approaches the mourners, convinced that the murderer is standing right in front of her. She realizes there is a stranger nearby, so she decides to investigate. When she enters the nearby woods, she finds the stranger to be none other than Uncle Fester. Tells his niece that he needs a place to stay after a job and rest for a few days. Wednesday goes to Eugene's beehive barn with him, where she talks to her uncle about her predicament. Fester makes reference to the hide is the name of the creature our heroine is looking for. Nevermore Academy's founder, Nathaniel Falter, did a ton of research on the monsters. Fester reveals that Faulkner kept his journal in the Nightshade library. Wednesday goes to Nightshade's secret room, where the uncle-niece team steals Faulkner's diary. Later that night, when Wednesday reads the diary, she learns a wealth of information about heights because artists by nature are just like everyone else. The height side is dormant until hypnosis or chemical induction activates it. It can also become active as a result of a traumatic event. The hide will inevitably form a bond with its liberator, also known as its liberator. When Xavier meets Dr. Kinboss the following morning, Wednesday and Fester follow him and spy on him in the woods, convinced that Dr. Kinboss is the master. When Wednesday gets to the principal's office, she is surprised to see the therapist there and decides not to tell the principal any further later. While looking for Fester, who is allegedly involved in a bank robbery, Wednesday's father notices them but chooses to ignore them. Wednesday then goes to the cafe and shows Tyler the diary. After the sheriff has left, Tyler asks Wednesday out on a date, but he won't accept Nell's response because they want to go meet in the cracked crypt later that evening. Stone goes to the date and requests that things remain at home to watch the diary. Wednesday's date at the crypt has been planned by Tyler, and she is enjoying it. When Tyler gets close to kissing his father, the sheriff and his team show up. Tyler expresses his desire to be more than just friends, but our goth girl tries to dissuade him. The police want to talk to Fester. After an interrupted date, Wednesday returns to her dorm to discover that someone has stolen Faulkner's diary and has also stabbed through the pond and attached it to the wall. Rush's contribution to Uncle Fester implores him to act. Bianca and Luca approach Wednesday and inform her that they have information on the assassination of the mayor. Lucas discovered some information on his father's laptop and believes his father recognized Fester practices his electrical abilities before attempting to resuscitate Thing with electroshock. Fester thankfully succeeds in resuscitating Thing. Wednesday requests that her uncle leave the school grounds the following day because the police are closing in the next day on those who had harmed Wednesday's parents and her family. The mayor and the coroner are two prominent examples of this. Wednesday thinks Dr. Valerie Kinbot is the murderer and decides to confront her therapist about it because she thinks Dr. Kinbot is the master of the cover-up. Her therapist is baffled by her claims and thinks Wednesday has finally lost it. When the sheriff informs them of Dr. Kinbot's death, Principal Larissa sits with Wednesday in the hospital waiting room. Dr. Kinbot calls the principal after Wednesday has left to voice her disgust over Wednesday's vile accusations. While on the phone, she hears someone in the bathroom. When we open the door, we see the hive monster attack the doctor. Later, when Dr. Kinbot's death is announced, Wednesday decides to put an end to everything by taking her own life. Confronting Xavier in his secret art studio, she notices how detailed and accurate his drawings of the hive monster are. Xavier maintains his denial of the accusations. The sheriff and his team storm into the studio. Having discovered the victim's belongings in Xavier's studio, they arrest Xavier after gathering evidence. Poor Xavier tells the cops over and over that he is being framed, but no one believes him. Wednesday then visits a nearby coffee shop. She finally kisses Tyler after some flirting. A powerful vision, however, knocks her to the ground. Dr. Kinbot is seen in the vision lying in a pool of blood with Tyler, who has just transformed from a raging monster to a human. He stands shirtless and bloodied over Dr. Kinbot's lifeless body. It turns out that Xavier is not guilty after all. Wednesday rushes out of the shop paralyzed with fear, leading Tyler perplexed as to what went wrong. That night our heroine summons Tyler to the woods. He believes it is just another date, but Wednesday reveals him to be a hive-like monster. Naturally, Tyler denies it, questioning why she would meet him alone if he were the murderous creature. Surprisingly, a few Nightshades members, including Bianca and Yoko, appear from the shadows to help Wednesday. They take him to Xavier's art studio and chain him to a chair, where Wednesday starts questioning him. Tyler claims his mother had severe bipolar disorder, but his mother was also a Hyde, and she thinks Tyler inherited the genes from her. Tyler then vehemently denies everything, but Wednesday is unmoved by his humorous plea and decides to torture him in the hopes that it will free Tyler. Wednesday then takes out 2 tasers and administers one to Tyler. While the sheriff is listening to tapes of Dr. Kinbot's sessions with Tyler, who turned out to be one of her clients as well, she explains how his mother's death left deeper psychological scars than she realized. Just then the sheriff receives a phone call from Principal Larissa informing him of Tyler's kidnapping Bianca. Students pause because they did not consent to be tortured when Wednesday begins shocking Tyler. Others leave because they no longer want to be a part of it. Before Wednesday arrives and Tyler experiences any more suffering, storm into the art studio. Wednesday and Tyler are brought to the police station. Wednesday proposal Eugene, who has awakened from his coma, farewell and warns them to be ready for what Tyler has in store for them next, while Miss Thornhill gives her a white oleander as a farewell gift and wishes her well. Eugene sits upright in his hospital bed while receiving gifts with a bee theme. The Beekeeping Club's best friends are back together. Wednesday claims that Dr. Kinbot set fire to the hide cave and that she controlled Tyler before he turned against her, but Eugene claims to have seen someone wearing a black coat and red boots just before the cave caught fire. Miss Thornhill is the only person Wednesday has seen, she quickly realizes. Put on red boots, she then goes back to the school and finds Laurel Gates, also known as Thornhill, in the conservatory. Miss Thornhill initially denies the accusations, but as Wednesday persists, she irritates her more and more. When Wednesday tells her that Tyler has told her everything, she reveals Miss Thornhill's evil schemes and how she used plant chemicals to cause Tyler to grow taller. When presented with Wednesday's bare facts, Tyler now refers to her as his master while Tyler observes the conflict from behind. Miss Thornhill confesses and begs Tyler to murder Wednesday, but Larissa, the principal, is the real one. To Miss Thornhill's surprise, the principal quickly changed into the boy. She then quickly changed back, and she asked Miss Darnell Laurel for help. Miss Thornhill injects Larissa with nightshade poison because he is speechless, but the principal Larissa dies shortly after being poisoned. When Eugene video calls in to tell Wednesday that Miss Thornhill is the bad guy, Wednesday and Principal Larissa go to confront her. Miss Thornhill then knocks Wednesday out with a pickaxe. We see the rising of a blood moon in the sky as Enid, who has promised to look for them in the conservatory thing, then appears and frantically alerts Enid of the dire situation and Wednesday's kidnapping. Wednesday then awakens chained to the wall in the crypt. Miss Thornhill reveals her plan to destroy the school, saying that she wants to use Tyler's body parts as a hide to revive Crackstone. In addition to killing Crackstone, he also cursed his soul. Wednesday is the day Miss Thornhill hopes to break the siege that Goody had imposed. Tim Stone is Wednesday, when the key to unlocking it is revealed to be the living progenitor of Goody. The sheriff is on his way to take the wrongfully accused Xavier to prison when he gets a call from an officer informing him that Eugene's parents think something is wrong and nevermore, and he decides to go there. Miss Thornhill returns to the crypt and cuts Wednesday's hand off the seal on Crackstone's tomb. Crackstone is awakened by the ritual and Miss Thornhill cuts Wednesday's hand off. He makes a promise that his retribution will be swift and true. Wednesday confronts him, but he stabs her and leaves her for dead. Fortunately, Goody shows up in front of her and teaches her how to defeat Crackstone. She gives her the advice to wear the talisman necklace her mother gave her so that Goody can pass through Wednesday and heal her, but she won't be able to see her again. Upon Wednesday's consent, her ancestor grants her healing. Enid arrives back at the academy where she meets Bianca and the Nightshades in the library. Enid offers to take the students out of the classroom and search for Wednesday in the woods after suggesting that the Nightshades and the Sirens use their power of persuasion to force the students out of the building. Begins Enid to transform into a werewolf as she rushes to save Wednesday on Blood Moon Night. Back in the woods, the sheriff changes his mind and decides to track down his son's location. He drives into the woods leading Xavier in his car, thankfully free Xavier. Wednesday rushes to stop Crackstone after being healed, but she meets Tyler on the way. He transforms into his hive monster and attacks her, but Anna transforms into her full wolf form and fights the monster. Meanwhile, Crackstone arrives at the school and immediately starts destroying everything in size. Anna succeeds by changing into a human just in time for things to find her as the battle between the werewolf and the hive devolves into a bloodbath. The sheriff finds Tyler in the leaves, bloodied, naked, and unconscious. When Xavier arrives on the scene, he shoots an arrow at Crackstone, but the Walking Dead deflects the arrow back in his direction. Wednesday then returns to Nevermore and equips herself with her father's sword. However, she is about to slash Crackstone but is prevented from doing so by his strength. Wednesday moves forward and takes the arrow in the shoulder. After that, Wednesday gets up and keeps fighting Crack. However, Stone snaps her sword into several pieces. Our shrewd heroine remembers what Goody told her regarding overcoming Crackstone and stabs him in the heart. With a scrap of the sword, he vanishes into thin air, but the bow continues as Miss Thornhill charges in with a gun. Eugene fortunately makes his grand entrance with his bees and causes them to attack her. The school has been saved. Enid later reunites with the Nevermore students who were hiding out in the woods. Then she dashes over to embrace Wednesday. The Butler family Addams. The next scene shows Lurch clearing out Wednesday's belongings from a room. The remaining semester's classes have been canceled. Before noticing Xavier relaxing on the floor above her, Wednesday waves goodbye to her friends. Xander then gives her a phone and even adds Xavier's phone number to her contacts. In the final scene of the show, Lurch is driving Wednesday home when she receives a text message from an unknown sender while sitting in the back seat of the family car. They sent her pictures while claiming to be watching her, and in the meantime, we see Tyler restrained and bound inside an armored truck on the road. Tyler then unexpectedly awakens and starts to transform into his hive monster. The series ends with Tyler suddenly awakening. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.